Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back at it again. The date on my end is officially March 1st, and as you can imagine, at the start of every month, there's going to be the end of the previous one. And the end of the month means, well, of course, there's always going to be a bit of an overview on how all the gacha games in the space are doing, because we've got to have our monthly PvP, we've got to have our monthly tribalism, and of course, a monthly overview of just how well every single game is doing. And we have the Sensor Tower report over here, the one that's been lauded as one of the most inaccurate ones in the space. And we've also got some supporting other charts from some other data collectors that can help, well, augment the discussion that's going on over here. So let's just go ahead. Let's get this one started. We've got the r/gacha gaming subreddit, and you can see that the upvotes on this one isn't particularly high because a lot of people are really mad at what's on here. So let me just cut away the surprise a little bit, and let's just start taking a look at the top two games. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is what it looks like. You have Genshin Impact apparently at the top, and then you're going to have Wuthering Waves in second place. Then Naruto Mobile, Dragon Ball Z Dokkan. Oh, that's... I guess this game's popping off. Love and Z Space, AKE, HSR, and then, oh god, that's its 4.0 update. Uma Musume, and then kind of like all the way down here, Zenless Zone Zero for their Angels of Delusion and all of that, right? So these numbers at first glance are naturally going to be looking pretty solid for most games. I think a lot of people are very impressed by Genshin managing to reach these numbers with like Z-Bai and I guess Varka. And then you have Wuthering Waves in a pretty comfortable second position, right? The most of the discussion that we're going to be having today is going to be focused on kind of like these two games in particular because, well, I don't really think that there's a lot of accuracy in these numbers. And you might be saying, oh, Say, you're just being a Wuthering Waves shill right now, right? You're just being an individual who wants to overstate how good your game is doing. Well, this is the thing, ladies and gentlemen. We've actually got proof in this circumstance. But before we dive into the specifics of this sort of like dynamic that we have going on over here, I just want to talk a little bit about the kind of like other big, we'll call them the big five. I think it's fair to call it the big five, where you got Genshin, Wuwa, Endfield, and then, of course, HSR and Zenless Zone Zero. And I refer to these games as the big five because they're all relatively popular games that are available on way more platforms than just mobile itself. It's available on PC. They're also available on consoles. They're also available on like the Epic Game Store. All of that goodness, right? And so naturally, only looking at mobile sales is going to be just a small slice of the pie. That's why I've actually got a PowerPoint available on the side that gives insight into the actual like player counts and where players are actually playing from when it comes to these titles. So with that out of the way, let's just go ahead and take a look at, like I said before, the rest of the big five first. We've got Arknight's Endfield. And I think it's fair to say that AKE, you shouldn't be putting too much faith into a lot of the numbers that you're seeing because this is a 1.0 update that had 3 limited characters. Yes, AKE might be the first gacha game ever, I believe, to launch in 1.0 with 3 limited characters. And so the numbers that you're seeing over here actually encompass both Yvonne and Gilberta's banners. And this game is naturally one of the most predatory ones in the space due to the fact that there's no pity carryover. The banners last for 17 days, and all your tickets, all your pity, all of that, it's all expiring. So naturally, right, there's a lot more incentive to spend. But one thing that's very clear about AKE is that it's rapidly losing a fuck ton of players pretty much every single day. The fact that they sent out 5 surveys in 1.0 is insane. And the fact that they have a returnee event where you have to quit the game for over 3 weeks, 21 days to get the returnee event, that's in the game right now. So naturally, you don't put in a returnee event like that unless you know there's been a massive fucking player fall off. And when you factor in that A, this was just Surtur, and B, this is the other 2 limited characters, it's not looking particularly good just from like a mobile perspective, right? And I'm pretty sure a lot of players have quit the game, and these are, well, reflected in the actual totals. Next up, we have Honkai Star Rail. You might be saying, oh, Say, they only made 8 million on these projections last month. This is the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Honkai Star Rail is going from its 3.8 update, which was like the Dahlia patch, where it's like Retcon City and just a piece of dog shit that everyone hated. And then they're going into their 4.0 update, their new region Planarcadia. Yeah, this is their new 4.0 region, the Land of Elation, all of that shit. Maybe everyone's saving up for Sparksy. Maybe everyone has just quit the fucking game because Planarcadia is a piece of dog shit. That could happen too. And then ZZZ, did you expect anything different from this game? Did you genuinely expect anything else other than this shit over here? ZZZ is about to get beaten by fucking battle cats at this point. Because this is the thing. They're releasing some of the most unpopular characters in the history of the game because people don't want to pull a bunch of, like, girl idols. I think that's just what it is. Even if the characters are fucking strong and overpowered, I just don't think people want to pull them. And that's, like, kind of all they have for the next couple of patches. So it's like, okay, awesome, whatever. I hope Sissia, or whatever her name is, right? Like, the crazy snake prostitute police officer. I hope... Well, I hope she's enough, but it is what it is, right? I don't think anyone finds the placement of games like this to be too particularly surprising. And the best way that we can actually tell, right, is by taking these charts, taking these projections over here, and then comparing them to AppMagic, which, frankly, is a good way for you to double check what's going on with Sensor Tower's numbers. Because what does AppMagic actually tell us? They have top free, top grossing, and of course top featured. And the category that we want to take a look at is top grossing for the month of February. Pretty cool, right? Let me just show you where some of the games on this list are actually showing up. You got Wuthering Waves, right? Let's just zoom in over here. Wuthering Waves in the 38th spot. Then somehow you have Genshin Impact actually after it. So that's where the first little bit of like, oh, okay, like these two and their data seem to be conflicting with each other because AppMagic is saying Wuthering Waves is actually higher. Interesting, right? Let's see what else AppMagic actually shows us. Then you got AKE all the way down here at below 20. Just saying. Just saying. And then below that, you got Honkai Star Rail at 84. And guess what's just not here? ZZZ just doesn't even show up in AppMagic's 100. Like, top 100 grossing. It's just not there. And this is the reality of Gacha revenue and Sensor Tower's numbers. Let me show you a little bit of something that's going on. And this is why I think having AppMagic available on the side is so helpful. And this is like an admission about the numbers that you probably already know, but we need to do a bit of a recap on it just to discuss what's going on. The figures here are rough market estimates sourced directly from Sensor Tower. And data found here is pulled directly from Sensor Tower's numbers with the exception of CN Android estimates, which are determined using a multiplier of CN iOS revenue. And it's just 1.75x. And so you can kind of see what's going on. The other revenue tracker is saying that Wuthering Waves is better. And the only reason why it's pulling ahead over here is because of this arbitrary 1.75x multiplier. That is literally it. And I'm going to be honest over here. I kind of trust these guys more because at least they're not openly admitting that they're fucking adding just a random multiplier on top. Yeah, there's nothing about random fucking multipliers, arbitrary 1.75x's, any of that shit. And Dragon Ball is showing better than both on AppMagic? Great. Maybe Dragon Ball Dokkan probably is actually doing better than both because I think they have like a crazy update or something right now. It likely, probably, actually is doing better than both. That wouldn't surprise me because I think they're on like their fucking anniversary, right? Yeah, it's on its 11th anniversary, and I guess it's a really good update. And that's the thing, guys. That's why you gotta make sure to have multiple sources as you're reviewing this data, because it gets a little bit more complicated, right? As you dig a little bit deeper. So now let's go ahead and let's start taking a look at some other shit, right? This is like some data that you're seeing on like AppMagic over here. And as you can see, based off a bunch of the rankings that we've seen, Wuthering Waves is always showing up higher in pretty much all of the calculations that have been shown. But this is the other thing, right? What if you actually take a look at a bit of the background that's going on with these games? Okay, all right. Let me... Because I've got a bit of a PowerPoint on my hands over here that somebody else has prepared. I'm not going to take credit for this one. I'm also not going to take any insults either if you think the PowerPoint is shit. Like we said, the big five. These are the rankings according to AppMagic, in line with what we're seeing on the Sensor Tower charts, except for Wuwa versus Genshin. But every other placement, right, is actually exactly the same as the Sensor Tower charts, with ZZZ all the way at like the buttfuck bottom with like nowhere else to go, HSR, then Endfield, and then Genshin, and then Wuthering Waves. Moving forward from there, Zenless Zone 0, why it's apparently dog shit and it flopped, let's just take a look at this. Right, and yeah, this guy needs to use animations. The long-awaited Idols of Delusion apparently flopped like crazy, and JP was the target audience for this, was the target demographic for those units. And it apparently debuted on this chart over here, which is actually accurate and projects the sales in JP. It debuted at like fucking 17, bro. Even the JP people didn't want this fucking shit. So naturally, people are gonna go with the mindset of the game's gonna need another fucking relaunch. And that much should be clear to everybody, because every single time they just release a Void Hunter and then the patch after that is dog shit. For example, post Miyabi patch, you got 1.5, which was just not good. It was just not a good update, right? And then 1.6 also not really that great. After Yi Zhuan, you got the whole fucking Spook Shack disaster. And then after Yi Shungai, you get the Angels of Delusion. I don't know what it is. It's like these guys cash out after releasing a broken fucking unit and then just make the game awful. And it's just been a consistent thing every single time. And there's a reason, guys, right? That the game has... I'm just going to take a look at the Twitch tracker real fast for ZZZ. I feel like I got to go take a look. Bro, it's at 365. Bro, that says 365 live viewers. Guys, remember... 2.5 was the previous patch, and they had the whole Void Hunter shit, right? Yi Shungai, the dev's girlfriend. But hey, right? The Angels of Delusion are the target audience, right? Hey, if you don't like the Angels of Delusion, like, why are you even playing ZZZ? Yeah, why are you even playing, bro? Dude, they killed the game. They killed the fucking game. Like, I don't even know what else to... They killed the game. Can we just accept that at this point? Though, I think it's pretty obvious. I think it's pretty damn clear. I think everyone can tell at this point. So yeah, another relaunch is coming. Another relaunch is coming for sure. Now, we got Honkai Starbucks. Honky Shitbucks. Let's take a look at this. The big version 4.0 is the most low-budget version ever. Yes, they have literal PNGs in. Literal fucking PNGs instead of actually rendered backgrounds. Yes, Plain Arcadia looks like garbage. And even as a game with the majority of the player base on mobile, it had an awful mobile debut. Because this is the thing, guys. Honkai Star Rail is a 3-button game with no timing mechanics or any of that shit. And so it is easily the most highly played mobile version of like a Hoyoverse game, because the experience on mobile is almost exactly the same, if not potentially better than the experience that you have on the PC. That's kind of just a fact. I think everyone recognizes that this is the best mobile game that Hoyo has. And this is the other thing, guys. This game has no competition. I don't know how Hoyoverse manages to fuck a game up like this so badly where they don't even have competition. Who else is making like a high budget, high fidelity, turn-based game, combat? Nobody right now on the market. And so it's kind of just like, how do you even do this? Like, CZN, guys, is fucking 2D. How do you even do this? Not surprising at all, right? Now, moving forward, we're gonna have Arknight's Endfield. And this is the thing. Endfield, like I said before, has had 3 banners in 1.0, and that most recent report encompasses 2 of those fucking banners. And it did well in its first month due to an insane, disgusting amount of advertising, and of course, an insane, disgusting amount of sponsorships. And you wanna know how I can prove to you how much these guys fucking advertised? Well, I've already shown it before. It's very, very, very simple. Take a look at this shit. We're gonna be showing the top featured now. And what featuring is basically on AppMagic is how much an app advertises. The more they spend on ads, the more they spend on top places in search results, that's what featuring is going to be. And look for the month of February, how much or where certain games are. Endfield is the first. And Endfield might be the only actual gacha game that shows up and featured. Oh, right, we have Genshin Impact in second. Then Honkai Star Rail. Then Wuwa at 69. Nice. And I guess even Hoyoverse gave up on ZZZ too, because it doesn't even show up here for some fucking reason. Now, what if we take a look at January? Endfield shows up as 3rd for January, when it released on January 22nd. Endfield released on January 22nd. And it's 3rd for January. And you remember how many ads they pushed out? Bro, I was getting so many Endfield ads on all my fucking videos, bro. Do you know how many people they had sponsored to play the fucking game? They sponsored XQC. They sponsored XQC to play the game, bro. And people are still getting the fucking ads. So yeah, getting numbers or showing numbers like that, knowing how much they spent, right? Doesn't look particularly that great. Doesn't look particularly that promising. And of course, I think a lot of people see the writing on the wall when it comes to this fucking game. Oh my lord. Oh my lord. Their 2nd month with 2 banners did worse than launch. Guys, and remember, these are the literal charts. This shit is pathetic, bro. I'm gonna be so for real. Like, this shit actually looks pathetic. And it's like almost actually in line with the worldwide... Wait, maybe Google Trends is reliable, bro. Wait, this shit is the same. Wait, it's actually the same as... Because these are, again, the revenue actuals that people have been getting from certain JP websites. That's why this shit is in Japanese, right? Or I think that's Japanese. I think that's why this shit is in Japanese. And so the Google trend is literally in line with the revenue. Why do you think there's a returnee event in 1.0? Why do you think the game has a returnee event in 1.0? That's Chinese? I don't believe you. Anyways, if it's Chinese, it's just as trustworthy, right? If not more. Naturally, we all know this shit is cooked. And we all saw version 1.1 as well. They fixed absolutely nothing. Now, Genshin Impact. Genshin should always do well because it's a big IP and there were 2 banners, but it's fair to say that the expectations were higher. And this is apparently a study that people were able to grab, right? From back in the day. Apparently 65% of Genshin's player base is on mobile, 10% is on console, and 25% is on the PC. This game apparently does not have that big of a like PC and console player base. And so actually a huge amount of its revenue total, or at least its player count, which you would imagine that's where the revenue comes from as well, right? Just again, this is a separate data point that people have found. But you can imagine a game like HSR might be up to like 80 or 90. Now, what about this? Wuthering Waves. It already had good results on mobile, and PC and PlayStation, or the other stores, right? It's also just as high because this game is literally beating Counter-Strike. Guys, Counter-Strike is an online gambling store. That's why Counter-Strike 2 is always at the highest revenue, because you can buy like the crates, right? Buy the keys, do all of that, right? And then sell your goods online. You can sell your goods online for like real life money. And this game did so well on its release, it beat the gambling game, where people literally can make money from spending on Counter-Strike. You can sell your gun skins, sell your knife skins, all of that, and make a profit. It's like, obviously, it's a casino, right? It beat the fucking casino. That's kind of nuts. And guess what, guys? You also got this one over here. Remember that JP website we were talking about? Oh, would you look at that? Yeah. That's Narushio. That's Wuthering Waves. And it showed up at the top of everything. Literally every single type of outside source you can see other than Sensor Tower, this game was at #1. That's a fact. And Solon himself said that 3.1 in Ameth, it beat everything. They've already said it. They said it was more profitable than any other update they've had in the history of the game, bro. That is what was said by the CEO of Kuro Games. And this is also the other thing. It is so obvious. Though it hasn't been publicly stated, most people will just go with this assumption. Wuthering Waves has a much bigger PC and console player base than other gachas. Because, well, the game is very graphically intensive and looks a lot better and plays a lot better because of the number of massive buttons you need to press on non-mobile devices. I think that's like a pretty... And it's an argument, right, that I'll use for ZZZ as well. I think ZZZ has a much bigger PC console player base than it does a mobile one, because the game requires quite a bit of finesse and button presses to actually play properly, and it's not really that good on mobile. I think most people recognize that too. So, as you can see, guys, right, utilizing Sensor Tower in this situation, right, and trying to use it as a sort of like end-all, be-all judgment, when you obviously know that they're just sticking that 1.75x multiplier on there to arbitrarily guess CN revenue, it's crazy to do. When every single other source in the space is telling you a different story. When everything else is telling you a different fucking story. And once again, I'll go back to February. Yeah. We just got to be realistic about this for a while, right? And the crazy thing is Varka not really necessarily being a unit that changes everything for Hoyoverse, right? Because guess what, guys? Varka was first teased in 2020. Yeah, Varka was mentioned in Genshin Impact since fucking 2020, bro. Since the release of the fucking game. That's how long this unit apparently has been hyped. The leader of the Knights of Favonius, right? Where do you start off the game? With the Knights of Favonius. Took 6 years to make, had the same level of hype, right, that's been building up for greater than a decade, or the greater half of a fucking decade. That's why people were expecting to hit, like, I don't know, seeing like 80 or 90, right? The Genshin glory days. That's what people were expecting to see here. It's just kinda nuts. So yeah, and apparently people have gone ahead. They've done some additional research as well. And if you take out the goofy ass 1.75x multiplier, it looks pretty much the same as AppMagic's numbers. Look. 8.8, 15.3, under 20, under 20, more than 20, under 10, under 10, under 20, under 20, over 20 for those two. But why is it that everything is the same on AppMagic versus Sensor Tower, except for Wuthering Waves being on top? It's the same photo, except for these two. And we all know what the creator of this chart loves doing. Cooking the numbers in the back end to make Wuthering Waves look worse than it is. Cue the Gateo clip.
4 and 6 right now. And why is this 7 then? See, why is there extra 1 mil on the website? Huh? Why is there an extra 1 mil? What did you cook? Why did you add 1 mil to Wuthering Waves?
And so yeah, when every other source is telling you one story, guys. Every other source in the space is telling you one story. But then this one is telling you something different. What's the actual truth? Let me know what you all thought. Peace out.